So thank you, everybody, and welcome to my presentation this afternoon. It's actually a quick summary of the presentation that I did to win the Faculty Teaching and Learning Award, and I was asked could I share it at the conference. So that's where this emerged from. So it's Blueprints and Student Engagement Innovations at Scale, a case of fundamentals of marketing, and as well as being an academic in the marketing group in the university's management school, I'm also the Director of Education for Marketing. So I really do need to show how I can lead the way in this way, I guess. So just a quick overview in terms of fundamentals of marketing module. It is actually delivered to almost 600 first year undergraduates that come to us from across 11 different programs with a real diverse range of backgrounds, different A-levels, BTEC, etc. And I'm lucky enough to have a core team of 4 staff to help me deliver seminars. So obviously this year was a pretty special year, wasn't it, with particular problems. This was the group that suffered the A-level debacle. So they just had all this hassle with the A-levels. They were kicking about that. They were upset about that. They were also seeing these sorts of images on the news about the current students and, you know, send food and what are we paying £9,000 for? We were hearing more and more about a mental health crisis. I was having to get my head around Canvas, which, although I love it now, terrified me at the time. And I kept imagining my poor first year students, first time away from home, being like this in isolation at home. So I thought I'm going to have to revamp this whole module. So what I did was I completely ditched my exam and I took a whole new approach to learner teaching and mainly assessment. In terms of the theory, some of the theoretical underpinnings that I used, these things were the 7 principles of online learning. They very much reflected the principles of the need to chunk and the need to scaffold and things like that. So I thought, oh, that's great. I fully understand all that. And then I looked at the align and learning needs and technology, and I thought, okay, this is very much about the university's hallmarks and authentic assessment and things like that. So I was comfortable with those. But I did some reading up about moving large classes online and how some of the problems of online learning were actually magnified the bigger the class got. And there was me with 600 first years, and they were talking about problems with loneliness and anxiety and boredom and frustration and all these things that are magnified when you've got hundreds of students. And I was thinking, oh my gosh. So I decided, based on partly on what I was reading from Park and Lynn, to think about what we called emotional affordances. In other words, making the module more fun with positivity and playfulness and safety and humanity. I shared a lot of things, personal things with them, because they said that can actually work to help make connections. So I want to sort of just show you really from the solutions I decided on. I realized from the reading and from the HAL principles, we had to get constant communication. So I did communication 4 different ways each week, and I'll show you some in a moment. I knew that diversity and inclusion and different learning styles and the way people wanted different assessments was important, and knew the learning had to be active and applied. I wanted to make sure that it was collaborative, especially with those small student-to-student groups that we had, even though they weren't going to be on campus and these students had never met each other before. That positivity, building skills in, getting the assessment authentic, and as I say, a big dose of humanity too. And so I just wanted to share with you some of my the Canvas module, and that's how I did it. So straight away, if you look at the dashboard for this module, do something great. I want to just start off with that positivity from the very beginning. And if we just go into my module now, I hope you can see where the fun is.
That's great.
You know, it's welcoming, I hope, and it's inclusive, not just in terms of the images, but look, John, I've got all my perfect accessibility scores. So I was really pleased with that. If we just go take random topic 2, you'll see that all the different activities. I did small chunked podcasts. I had TED Talks. I had case studies that I'd written based on projects that I'd done.
I'll just, I don't know if, that's, just put that.
Okay. So I did a piece of research for Cunard and Pinot Cruises a few years ago. So what I did was I wrote a case study based on that, so that the students had all the, research-based teaching, and we did exercises based on the cruise market, and they had YouTube clips going around big ships and things like that. So that was all good fun. And when I say about explaining very clearly what they had to do, I broke it down like this. So this was one of 4 ways a week per week they got this information. So it was literally read this, watch this TED Talk, read this, watch this podcast, check your learning with the self-assessment quiz, do this in your little groups. And they appreciated that, because they said it was so easy to get lost, So I used to send that out on a Monday morning, send it out in a summary on a Friday afternoon, and also remind them of it in the online lectures as well. So 4 times a week they got that. I also made sure it was playful. So, if you just, I'm not going to go into my studio page, but here you can see there's clips from Wayne's World, there's cartoons, there's, as I say, YouTube videos from cruises. So we had some fun with that as well. But I think the biggest innovation were my assignments. I just completely ditched the exam, and instead I went to weekly small assessments. So there was 9 altogether, 9 mini assessments. But they only had to do 7. So they got 5 marks each for a total of 35 marks, and then a big project at the end. And what I did with these mini assignments is I said, well, you only have to choose any 7, but it meant that if somebody was sick or self-isolating, they didn't need to worry about catching up. The irony of it is most of them chose to do all 9 because they said they were fun. Students actually submitting work that they didn't get marks for, which was astonishing. And I've never known that before. It was great. So I absolutely loved that. I want to just show you at random one of these. The way I did it, I built in the universities, or this management school rather, the skills into each one. So each one had a dual purpose. It wasn't just about doing a task. It was also about developing a skill. So this one in particular was they had to design an infographic. So it was communication skills, digital literacy, and that was all built into the purpose of doing this. So in their small weekly groups, they got to know each other because they were working on one of these tasks each week. And then they'd hand that in, and I'd mark it and give them feedback. I just want to show you standard of some of the work I was getting for 5 lousy marks. It blew me away. This is one of the infographics I got, and there was hundreds of them like this. So they were doing the work, they were researching, they were presenting the data they'd researched, but they were also doing it in such a really good communications way.
Lovely.
And so you couldn't not give them 5 marks for this, and that motivated them, because they were thinking, this is great, I'm learning so much, I'm going to do even better on the next time. And if they were only getting 3 or 4, they were saying, I'm getting a 5 next time. So it brought in an element of competition and an element of determination too, which worked really, really well. So I was really pleased with that. So look what happened. This was the module feedback. It's really hard to get high scores in a massive module, but about a third of the students fill the module evaluation in. Every score was over 5. Every score was over 4 out of 5, which I was delighted about. But if we look at some of the qualitative feedback, the mini assignments allowed me to meet people. We helped each other throughout the module. Look at this. I'm glad we got to work in groups. We were still connected, even in the middle of the pandemic. So it worked. It brought them together. It kept them together, and they made friends. And then, of course, they loved the real life application. They loved the fact that they always knew what they needed to do each week. So that it worked well. So I think overall, just wanted to share this with you. In the year to me prior to me taking over the module mark had been about 52.5% for years. I changed the assessment when I took it over a few years ago, and I got the mean mark to be about 61%, and it was steady in between 60 and 62% for the last few years. This year, a mean mark of 68%. Half the students got a first, and nearly another quarter got a 2-1. And I'm just so delighted. They deserved it. I got better standard of work than I've ever got. And they loved it. So it worked, and I'm going to make sure I keep these mini assignments moving forward. And even when we all get back onto campus for every class, I'm still going to keep these because they work so well. So that's me.
Great. I'll just put my webcam on again.
Share it.
Oh yeah, fine. That was really great. Great to hear about. And you've won an award, is that right?
Yes, I won the Faculty Teaching and Learning Award for these innovations. So sorry, what?
Sorry, Lynn. If you stop sharing, next to the leave button, if you push the little cross button.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to press that.
It's okay.
Okay, I'll stop now.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really very good. Quick question for me, if that's all right. I just wondered, have you got any advice? Well, we're helping in our job role, mine and Job's job role, and Kerry's. We're helping lots of the lecturers to consider re-envisaging their assessment, basically, maybe moving from exams to lots of mini tasks and that type of thing. Yeah. Have you got any advice for those lecturers we're helping around working towards that?
Yeah. Very much. I did 7 out of 9 this year, and I think it was too much marking for me.
Right.
So moving forward, what I'm doing for next year is I'm doing 4 out of 5.
Okay.
So I'm doing fewer tasks, and I'm going to give them 10 marks each instead of 5. And this year I did a whole mixture. So some weeks they had to produce an infographic like you've seen. Some weeks it was a poster. But some weeks I also gave them things like mini case studies. Now they were too much to mark each week.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, Lynn, the marking.
Yeah. So moving forward, all I'm going to do is those sort of infographics and posters, because they had to put so much work in. But they were dead easy to mark, and they were enjoyable to mark. And what I also did is for things like the posters, I gave them a task, but I told them to choose their own brands. And so that way they picked something they were interested in, and I wasn't bored stiff because each one was different. So that helped me too.
Well, that's really good. So I don't think you mean don't be over ambitious, but you might want to reflect upon it after having tried it out for a year and maybe think about smaller number but more marks, but keeping it with that varied style that you've got there.
Absolutely, yeah. And the fact that they're developing new skills means they're quite happy to do posters or infographics, but they're relatively easy to mark.
I can see a definitely case study here if you haven't written one for CIE already. I think a few of these practical, these are things that definitely other people from other areas would definitely like to replicate and will consider replicating.
Well, I've shared this with my group. We did a workshop on it, and already some of the other lecturers have implemented it in their modules next year. So
I think the great thing as well, Lynn, is that you've clearly put a lot of work into the Canvas area there. And the wonderful thing is that you've got it now.
Yes.
And so you can
nearly killed me, but I've got it now.
you've got something that you can reuse and re-implement and tweak. And so now it just shows how that upfront effort. I mean, it looks absolutely fantastic. I'd seen it. I've seen bits of it before, but yeah, and obviously your accessibility scores. I'm really proud of you, Lynn.
There you go.
Yeah, as Kerry says, it's paid off because the students have actually engaged with it.
Yes.
So,
Perfect.